The distinct facial scars that adorn numerous Nazi officials have a unique history. These scars, known as Schmiss, were not just random wounds but were deeply rooted in a fascinating and complex tradition that predated the Nazi era. To understand the reason why these scars were so prevalent among high-ranking Nazi officers, let us dig into the rich history of German dueling traditions, specifically within elite fraternities, and explore how these traditions were carried into the military and political spheres. The tradition of Schmiss starts from Mensur, an academic fencing rehearsed among university students in German-speaking nations. Tracing all the way back to the 16th century, Mensur was more than just a game. It was a ritual that emphasized honor, bravery, and fellowship among its participants. Unlike to modern fencing today, Mensur duels involved sharp blades and were led such that practically ensured members would get facial cuts. Mensur was particularly popular among members of student fraternities known as corps, which were prestigious societies that played a significant role in shaping the social and political landscape of Germany. These corps valued Mensur as a means of proving one's courage and resilience. The scars obtained from these duels were regarded as marks of honor and a testament to one's bravery and toughness. The process of getting and showcasing these scars was an essential piece of Mensur custom. During a Mensur duel, the point was not to overcome the rival, but to stand one's ground and endure the confrontation. The members, known as Paukanten, wore defensive stuff on their bodies, however, allowed their faces to be exposed. The outcome was in many cases a progression of purposeful facial cuts, which were viewed as unavoidable and surprisingly alluring. To guarantee that these scars were noticeable, participants sometimes resorted to extreme measures. It was customary for duelists to insert horsehair into the cut to keep them from healing flawlessly, and in this way, they aimed to make it more observable and persevering scars. These scars were typically situated on the left half of the face, as most duelists were right-handed, and the left side was bound to be struck. In German society, these facial scars became a symbol of honor and elite status. They were a visible testament to one's participation in Mensur, and by extension one's membership in a prestigious fraternity. Among the upper classes, where many future Nazi officers originated, these scars were a badge of distinction. They conveyed a message of resilience, discipline, and adherence to tradition. These values were highly esteemed in the military and political spheres as well. Many Nazi officers came from aristocratic or upper-middle-class families and had been members of these corps during their university years. As they rose to prominence within the Nazi regime, they carried with them the marks of their youthful duels, which continued to serve as symbols of their personal strength and toughness. The presence of Schmiss among Nazi officers contributed to their fierce and intimidating appearance. The scars enhanced the impression of these people as hardened warriors, ready to battle and endure any challenge. This picture was beneficial for the Nazi propaganda machine, which tried to depict its chiefs as paragons of Aryan strength and fortitude. Besides, the scars played into the more extensive Nazi philosophy of valorizing military ability and actual strength. The regime glorified combat and struggle, both on the battlefield and in everyday life. The visible signs of past duels aligned perfectly with this ethos, reinforcing the idea that the Nazi leadership was composed of men who had proven their mettle long before they donned military uniforms. The psychological and social impact of Mensur scars extended beyond their immediate visual effect. For the officers who bore them, these scars were a constant reminder of their youthful bravery and the elite circles they belonged to. This sense of belonging and the shared experience of having participated in Mensur duels fostered a strong camaraderie among those who had these marks. In the rigid hierarchy of the Nazi system, such images of sturdiness and strength were personal badges of honor, but were also signs of one's readiness to uphold and enforce the regime's brutal policies. The scars were a noticeable testament to their capacity to endure pain and inflict it, characteristics that were highly valued in the militaristic and authoritarian culture of Nazi Germany. Ironically, despite the prominence of Mensur scars among Nazi officers, the tradition itself came under scrutiny and eventual decline during the Nazi era. The regime, which sought to centralize and control all aspects of German life, viewed the independent and elitist nature of student fraternities with suspicion. In the 1930s, as Adolf Hitler consolidated his power, Mensur and similar activities were increasingly regulated and in many cases outright banned. The Nazi leadership preferred to promote a more uniform and state-controlled form of military training and indoctrination. Activities that were seen as fostering independent or elitist subcultures were discouraged. As a result, the traditional Mensur duels became less common, and the practice of earning Schmiss scars began to wane. Despite the decline of Mensur under Nazi rule, the legacy of these scars endured through the individuals who bore them. The facial scars of Nazi officials act as a wake-up call of a complex tradition that mixed notions of honor, fortitude, and social status. These marks are more than just remnants of individual histories. They are images of a more extensive cultural and historical setting. The scars tell a story of how personal valor and social prestige were intertwined in pre-war Germany. They highlight the ways in which elite traditions can influence and shape political and military cultures. For the Nazi officers who bore them, the scars were linked to their past, a past steeped in the rituals of Mensur and the values of the Corps. In the elite circles of pre-war Germany, Mensur scars served as a form of social capital. They were physical marks and social indicators that could open doors to influential networks and prestigious careers. Being part of a student fraternity practicing Mensur meant access to a lifelong network of influential contacts, which could be invaluable in civilian and military careers. For Nazi officers, this network often extended into the upper echelons of the military and the Nazi Party itself. The shared experience of Mensur duels helped to forge bonds of trust and loyalty among individuals who would later occupy critical positions within the regime. The scars they bore were a visible reminder of these bonds and the values they represented. In conclusion, the facial scars seen on many Nazi officers were far more than mere physical marks. They were emblems of a rich and storied tradition that spoke to notions of honor, bravery, and elite status. As Nazi officers, these individuals brought with them the visible signs of their past duels, which enhanced their fierce and formidable image. The scars played a role in Nazi iconography, aligning with the regime's emphasis on martial valor and physical toughness. However, the tradition of Mensur itself faced suppression under Nazi rule, as the regime sought to eliminate independent and elitist subcultures in favor of a more controlled and uniform society. Today, the legacy of these scars serves as a reminder of the complex interplay between personal history and broader cultural traditions. The story of Schmiss and Mensur offers a fascinating glimpse into how elite practices can shape and influence political and military identities, leaving a lasting mark on both individuals and history itself.